If you sign that, you don't own the land, said the 10-year-old homeless girl. The Arab billionaire laughed, but she'd just spotted what 14 translators missed in his $5.2 billion deal. Before we continue, please comment which city you're watching from. The service elevator opened on the 61st floor of the Meridian Crown Tower, and Emily Carter stepped out carrying a stack of collapsed catering boxes, 10 years old, barefoot, homeless for 3 years and 4 months. She wasn't supposed to be here, but the conference coordinator had hired her for $20 to pack up after lunch, and $20 bought 2 days of food if she was smart about it. Emily was always smart about it. Down the hall, raised voices echoed from the executive negotiation suite. Japanese, Korean, English, Arabic. Emily recognized all of them. She moved quietly toward the service wall, stacking boxes, listening. Not because she was nosy, because survival meant knowing when adults were about to explode, when security was coming, when it was time to disappear. But these voices weren't angry. They were desperate. Inside the suite, Khalid al-Rashid stood at the head of a $95,000 marble table, staring at men who'd flown 6,000 miles to tell him no. 48 hours left, $5.2 billion on the table, and nobody could explain why the deal was dying. "The translations are correct," Khalid said in English, his voice tight. "We've verified them independently, 3 times. The lead Japanese delegate spoke softly, too softly. Emily's hands froze on a cardboard box. That tone, she knew that tone. It was the same tone zoning officers used right before they condemned a building. Polite, final, irreversible. A Korean planner responded, and Emily's stomach dropped. That phrase, she'd seen it on demolition notices, the ones that appeared 90 days before bulldozers came. Her eyes shifted to the conference table. Printed documents lay scattered across the surface. Japanese, Korean, English, Arabic. She shouldn't look. She should pack her boxes, take her $20, disappear like always. But her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "Land speaks, mi amor. Most people just don't know the language." Emily had learned the language, not from books, from survival. She'd slept in half-built towers and read the zoning permits taped to chain-link fences. She'd memorized the words that appeared before evictions. She'd mapped the difference between temporary permission and permanent loss. And from where she stood, she could see the document's header. Custodial Development Agreement, not ownership transfer. Custodial. Oh no. Emily took one step closer to the table. Security noticed immediately. "Hey," a guard said, moving toward her. "Service staff aren't allowed." "If you sign that," Emily said, her voice cutting through the room, "you don't own the land." 30 heads turned. The room went completely silent. Khalid al-Rashid, worth $11.8 billion, stared at the barefoot child in worn clothes who just interrupted the most important negotiation of his career. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Khalid's expression shifted from shock to something that looked almost like amusement. "We have translators," he said mildly, gesturing to the 14 experts sitting along the wall. "Certified professionals who've verified every word." Emily didn't back down. She'd learned early that hesitation got you removed. "They translated words," she said, "not land." Someone actually laughed. A nervous, uncomfortable sound. The lead translator, a woman in her 50s with credentials from Oxford, smiled the way adults smile at children who don't understand how the world works. "Sweetheart, this is a sovereign real estate agreement. It's been reviewed by—" "You used custodial phrasing in Japanese," Emily interrupted. Her eyes were on the document, not the adults. "That means stewardship, not ownership. And the Korean verb tense starts a municipal review clock. Once it starts, you can't stop it." The laughter died. The Japanese delegate leaned forward, his expression unreadable. The Korean planner whispered something to his colleague. Khalid crossed his arms, studying Emily with the focus he usually reserved for billion-dollar decisions. "Explain," he said. Emily pointed at the Japanese section. "This word here, it means custody. Like a parent has custody of a child. Temporary authority, not possession." She moved to the Korean page. "And this verb, it triggers an automatic cultural use audit in 36 months. If the land fails that audit, it reverts to municipal control. You get compensated, but they keep everything you built. The room had gone very still. One of Khalid's advisors cleared his throat. That would be catastrophic. That's impossible, the head translator insisted. We specifically checked for reversion clauses. You checked the English translation, Emily said. English erases consequences. It turns temporary custody into development rights. It makes mandatory review sound optional. She looked at Khalid. You have development rights, but you don't have ownership? In 3 years, Osaka and Seoul will review your progress. They'll use cultural compliance standards. And when you fail, because the standards are designed for failure, they'll take the land back. Khalid's jaw tightened. How would a child know this? Emily's voice came out flat, emotionless. Because I've been evicted 9 times in 3 years. You learn to read what adults won't say out loud. The Japanese delegate spoke in rapid Japanese to his team. The Korean planner was already pulling up something on his tablet, and Khalid al-Rashid, who'd built an empire on reading people, saw something in Emily's eyes he recognized. Certainty born from survival. Who are you? He asked quietly. Nobody, Emily said. I pack boxes for $20. I sleep in buildings that aren't finished yet, and I speak 6 languages because construction sites don't care if you're homeless. They just care if you're useful. She pointed at the document again. You're about to lose $5 billion because your translators speak languages. But I speak land. There's a difference. Khalid looked at his legal team. Is she right? The head translator was scanning the document with new eyes, her confidence cracking. The custodial phrasing is unusual, but in context, the Korean planner interrupted in English, his accent thick but his words clear. She is correct. The review mechanism is automatic. We assumed you understood this. The room erupted. Advisors shouting, lawyers scrambling, someone demanding to know how a child could spot what 14 professionals had missed. But Khalid was still looking at Emily. You said I don't own the land, he said over the noise. Can it be fixed? Emily met his eyes. Yes. How? Let me show you. Khalid smiled. It wasn't a kind smile, it was the smile of a man who just found a weapon he didn't know existed. Everyone out, he said, except her. The advisors filed out reluctantly. The translators exchanged glances. Security hovered near the door. Only Khalid remained at the table, and Emily clutching her empty catering boxes like armor. You said you can fix this, Khalid said. How? I can translate it properly, Emily said. Vertical translation, from word to law to consequence, not just word to word. The head translator, still lingering near the exit, laughed. With all due respect, Mr. al-Rashid, she's a child. This document requires expertise in international law, municipal zoning codes. I know exactly what it requires, Emily interrupted. Japanese custodial language, Korean time trigger verbs, English that hides both, and Arabic that assumes permanence unless explicitly revoked. She looked at Khalid. Your translators work horizontally. Same word, different language. But land doesn't work that way. Land is vertical. Word becomes law, law becomes consequence. Miss one layer, lose everything. Khalid's eyes narrowed. And you learned this where? University? Construction sites, Emily said. The translator scoffed. This is absurd. Out, Khalid said sharply. The woman left. He turned back to Emily. Tell me how a 10-year-old speaks 6 languages and reads real estate law. Emily's hands tightened on the boxes. She didn't want to explain. Explaining meant admitting things that made adults either pity her or call social services. But Khalid was waiting. My mother died 3 years and 4 months ago, Emily said, her voice flat. Paperwork vanished. System moved on. I've been homeless since. Khalid's expression didn't change. No pity, just listening. I sleep where buildings are unfinished, Emily continued. You learn things when you're looking for unused space, which permits mean temporary, which notices mean you have 30 days, which words mean they're coming with bulldozers. She set down the boxes. I learned English from survival. Arabic from security guards and logistics crews, Japanese from zoning boards, Korean from municipal warnings, Urdu from labor teams, Tagalog from site coordinators. You didn't study, Khalid said slowly. You mapped. I mapped consequences, Emily corrected. When Japanese documents use custodial phrasing, buildings get reclaimed. When Korean uses that verb tense, countdown starts. English translations erase both. I learned that at 7. For the first time, Khalid looked at her differently. Not as a child, as someone who understood something he didn't. Prove it, he said. Translate this document. Show me what my experts missed. Emily nodded. If you're right, Khalid continued, pulling out his phone, if you can actually save this deal, I'll give you $100 million. The number hung in the air. Emily stared at him. Why would you do that? Because if you're right, you'll have saved me $5 billion, $100 million is cheap. He smiled. But if you're wrong, you leave and never come back. Agreed? Every adult in Emily's life had taught her that offers from rich people came with hooks. Her mother had warned her, the system had proven it. But this wasn't about money, this was about being seen. I don't want money, Emily said. Khalid blinked. What? I don't want $100 million. Emily's voice was steady. I want something else. That seemed to confuse him more than anything that had happened so far. You're negotiating? Khalid said, almost amused. Before you've proven anything? I'm clarifying, Emily corrected. So you know what I actually need when I save your deal. Khalid leaned back against the table. Fine, what do you want? I'll tell you after, Emily said, but I want your word, right now, that you'll give me what I ask for. That's not how negotiations... You're losing $5 billion in 48 hours, Emily interrupted. Your translators failed, your lawyers failed, you're out of options and out of time. She met his eyes. I'm the only person in this building who knows what's actually wrong, so yes, that's how this negotiation works. Silence. Then Khalid laughed. Actually laughed. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I'm homeless, Emily said. I stopped being scared of rich people when I realized they're just as lost as everyone else. They just hide it better. Khalid's smile faded. He studied her for a long moment. Deal, he finally said. Save my $5 billion. Ask for what you want. If it's reasonable, it's yours. Deal, Emily echoed. She picked up the document and got to work. Emily asked for 3 things: printed copies of all 4 language versions, a whiteboard, and 2 hours of silence. Khalid granted all 3. She spread the documents across the conference table, mapping them like construction blueprints. Japanese on the left, Korean next, English, Arabic. Then she started drawing on the whiteboard. Not translations, flowcharts. Your translators work like this? Emily said, drawing horizontal arrows. Japanese word to English word, Korean word to English word. They match vocabulary. They check grammar. They call it accurate. She drew a vertical line through the arrows. But real estate doesn't work horizontally, it works vertically. Khalid watched from his chair, arms crossed. Emily wrote, word, law, consequence. This Japanese phrase, she pointed at the document, kanriken. Your translator called it management rights. Technically true, but in real estate law, kanri means custodial authority, temporary, not ownership. She drew downward. That word becomes this law. She pointed at a municipal code. Custodial authority triggers Article 47.2 of Japanese Urban Redevelopment Standards. Cultural asset review, mandatory after 36 months. Another arrow down. That law becomes this consequence. If cultural compliance falls below 65% for 120 days, custody reverts. You lose the land. You get compensated for costs, not profits. Khalid leaned forward. My translators didn't see that? They translated the word, not what the word does. Emily moved to the Korean section. Same problem here. This verb, jeomtohata, they translated it as review, also technically correct. She circled it. But jeomtohata in municipal documents isn't passive review. It's active investigation, automatic, non-negotiable. and it starts the moment you sign. So the countdown begins at signature, Khalid said quietly. Yes. Emily drew a timeline. You sign today. In exactly 36 months, Osaka and Seoul both trigger mandatory reviews. Different laws, same result. You lose unless you meet cultural use standards that you didn't know existed. Because the English version erases all of it, Emily finished. English says development rights and periodic review. Sounds optional, sounds permanent, but it's neither. Khalid stood, moved to the whiteboard. He stared at Emily's diagram. This is intentional, Emily said. Not malicious, just cultural. Japanese business culture uses indirect language. They expect you to understand subtext. Korean legal language builds in automatic safeguards, and English simplifies everything, which strips the meaning. She pointed at the Arabic version. Your Arabic translator assumed that unless revocation is explicit, ownership is implied. That's true in Arab property law. But this deal involves Japanese and Korean law, where the opposite is true. Custody is assumed unless ownership is explicit. Khalid's jaw was tight. So, I'm about to sign away $5 billion. You didn't lose it yet, Emily said. But the countdown already started in their minds. That's why they won't sign. They think you understand the real terms. They think you're trying to trick them by using confused translations. How do I fix it? Emily pulled out a blank sheet. You add a technical appendix. 5 pages. It does 3 things, she wrote. 1, explicit ownership language across all 4 versions. 2, quantified failure thresholds, Rule 65% cultural compliance, 120 consecutive days. 3, mutually agreed audit body, not automatic municipal triggers. You're not rewriting. History, Emily explained. You're adding a control layer, something all 4 legal systems can enforce. You keep development rights, but you also get ownership, and you remove the automatic countdown. Khalid took the paper, read it. This would actually work? Only if you write it in all 4 languages with vertical translation. Word to law to consequence. Every version says the exact same thing legally, even if the words are different. Can you write it? Yes. How long? 6 hours, maybe 8. Khalid looked at his watch. We have 48 hours until the signing deadline. I'll tell the delegations we're adding a technical appendix. You write it. My translators verify it. If they confirm you're right, they will. Then we sign, and you get what you asked for. Emily nodded. Khalid called his team back in. The translators, the advisors, the delegations. We're adding a technical appendix, he announced. New terms drafted by... He paused. What's your name? Emily Carter. Drafted by Ms. Carter, Khalid continued smoothly, subject to independent verification. The head translator looked stunned. You're letting a child draft a $5 billion amendment? I'm letting the person who found the problem solve it, Khalid corrected. You have an objection? The translator's mouth opened, closed. No, sir. Good. Everyone out. She needs silence. Emily worked through the night. Khalid had food brought up, real food, not leftovers, and she ate while writing. Japanese first, custodial language replaced with explicit ownership terms, cultural compliance thresholds quantified, municipal triggers replaced with bilateral audit mechanisms, then Korean, time trigger verbs neutralized, review language changed from automatic to conditional, failure standards defined mathematically, English next, every vague phrase replaced with specific legal consequences, no implications, no assumptions, just clarity. Finally, Arabic, ownership explicitly stated, revocation conditions enumerated, cultural law conflicts resolved through international arbitration clauses. By dawn, she had 18 pages. By noon, the translators had verified every word. It's perfect, the head translator admitted, her voice hollow. Every version says exactly the same thing legally. The ownership is explicit. The triggers are removed. This would work. The Japanese delegation read it, whispered among themselves, then nodded. The Korean planners did the same. One of them smiled for the first time in 3 days. This is acceptable, the lead Japanese delegate said. This is what we needed from the beginning. Khalid looked at Emily. She was exhausted, eyes red, still wearing the same worn clothes. Sign it, he said. And they did. All parties, all 4 languages, all 18 pages of appendices, $5.2 billion secured. The room erupted in relief. Handshakes, smiles, advisors already calculating profits. But Khalid walked to Emily, who was slumped in a chair near the window. "You saved me $5 billion," he said quietly. "So, what do you want?" Emily looked up at him. "I want a foundation." Khalid blinked. "A foundation?" "For land literacy," Emily said. "Teaching kids like me to read what buildings say. To understand zoning language, property law, municipal codes, so they don't get erased when developers come." The room had gone quiet, advisors exchanging glances, translators watching. "You could have asked for $100 million, Khalid said slowly. "Cash, freedom, never worry about money again." "Money runs out." Emily stood, her legs shaky from exhaustion. "Knowledge doesn't. My mother taught me that." "Your mother," Khalid repeated. "The one who died." Emily's throat tightened. "She worked construction sites, cleaned offices, spoke 6 languages but only got paid for lifting trash. She taught me languages at night because she said it was the only inheritance she could give us." Her voice didn't crack. She'd learned not to let it. "She died because we couldn't afford a hospital. Because in this city, if you're useful but invisible, you're disposable." Khalid was listening with complete focus now. "There are kids living in half-built towers right now," Emily continued. "Kids who watch demolition crews arrive and don't understand why, who get evicted and think it's random, who never learn that land has rules, that those rules are written in language, and that language is power." She met Khalid's eyes. "You almost lost $5 billion because nobody translated consequence. How many kids lose their homes because nobody teaches them to read warnings?" "So you want me to fund education?" Khalid said. "I want you to fund survival," Emily corrected. "Land literacy for children who live where buildings decide their futures, training hubs near construction zones, legal translators who understand consequence mapping, housing pathways for kids aging out of shelters." She pulled a folded paper from her pocket. "I wrote this last night between Japanese and Korean sections." Khalid took it, unfolded it. His eyebrows rose. $20 million startup capital, he read aloud. "Training curriculum development, 6 pilot cities, legal translator certification program, emergency housing fund." He looked up. "You wrote a budget proposal while translating a $5 billion contract?" "I've been planning this for 2 years, Emily said. "I just needed someone with resources to listen." "Why me?" "Because you understand that missing one word costs billions. Now imagine missing words your whole childhood. That's what happens to kids like me." Emily's voice grew stronger. "You built an empire on land. I'm asking you to help build futures on land literacy." Khalid studied the proposal. "This is detailed, professional. You have implementation timelines, scalability metrics, outcome measurements." "I learned from watching developers," Emily said. "They don't ask for charity. They pitch investments. So I'm pitching. Fund this foundation. When these kids grow up speaking land, they'll become your project managers, your translators, your partners. This isn't charity, it's infrastructure." Something shifted in Khalid's expression. "How much do you actually need?" Emily had calculated this exactly. $40 million over 5 years. That covers 6 pilot cities, 200 trained translators, housing support for 500 children, and program expansion. "That's more than my original offer." "Your original offer was a joke," Emily said flatly. "You didn't think I'd succeed, but I did. So now I'm negotiating properly." Khalid laughed, actually laughed. "You're 10 years old and you just told a billionaire his offer was a joke." "You respect people who know their value," Emily said. "That's how you built your empire. So yes, 40 million, and I want a governance seat. The foundation runs independent. You provide resources, not control." "You're demanding autonomy. I'm demanding effectiveness." Emily held his gaze. "And rich people love to fund things and then micromanage them to death. I need someone who understands that good investment means letting experts work." Khalid set down the proposal, pulled out his phone, typed something. "Done," he said. "Transferred $40 million to a new foundation account. Patricia Morrison, family law attorney, will help you establish legal structure. You get governance seat, operational autonomy, and my advisory support. Emily's breath caught. That's... You actually... I didn't become successful by ignoring good investments, Khalid said, and I didn't survive 30 years in real estate by missing talent when it walks into my building. He extended his hand. Partnership, not charity. Emily shook it. Her hand disappeared in his, but her grip was firm. One condition, Khalid added. The first training hub opens in Dubai. I have buildings here that can host it. Deal, Emily said. If you provide building access, we'll train translators who can help your future projects. Smart, Khalid acknowledged. Very smart. The signing ceremony was scheduled for the following morning. All parties confirmed. The technical appendix approved. $5.2 billion ready to transfer. Emily was in the guest room Khalid had provided, finally sleeping in an actual bed, when her phone rang. It was Khalid. We have a problem. Emily was instantly awake. What happened? The Korean delegation wants to renegotiate. They're saying the appendix doesn't adequately address cultural preservation concerns. They're threatening to walk. When? They're in the building now. You need to get up here. Emily threw on clothes and ran. The negotiation suite was tense. The Korean planners sat on one side, expressions neutral but firm. Khalid's team on the other, barely controlled panic showing. They say the language isn't strong enough, Khalid said as Emily entered. That cultural compliance protections are too vague. Emily looked at the lead Korean planner. What specifically concerns you? He spoke in Korean, deliberately excluding the translators. Testing. Her. Emily responded in Korean, her pronunciation careful. You're concerned that ownership language overrides cultural protection? That foreign investment will erase local heritage? His eyebrows rose. You speak Korean? I learned from reading municipal demolition notices, Emily said, still in Korean. The ones that appear before construction crews arrive. I know what gets destroyed when developers don't care about cultural preservation. She switched to English so everyone could follow. The appendix protects your investment, but you're worried it doesn't protect your community. That's fair. That's important. You understand, the planner said carefully. I understand that land has memory, Emily said, that buildings carry history, that some things matter more than profit. She moved to the whiteboard. In Korean development law, cultural preservation isn't just compliance, it's jong, emotional connection to place. You can't quantify that in English terms. It doesn't translate. The Korean delegation leaned forward. The appendix uses Western legal language, Emily continued, compliance thresholds, measurable outcomes, but that misses what you actually care about. Community input, local heritage protection, spaces that honor history instead of erasing it. She drew a new section. We need to add a cultural advisory council, 5 members, 3 appointed by local communities, 2 by the developer. Any major design change requires unanimous approval, not majority, unanimous. That gives local communities veto power, one of Khalid's advisors objected. That's non-negotiable, Emily said firmly. You want this deal? You build with communities, not over them. She looked at Khalid. You almost lost $5 billion because you didn't understand consequence. You'll lose it for real if you don't understand Jong. Some things are worth more than control. Khalid was silent for a long moment, then he nodded. Add the Cultural Advisory Council, unanimous approval requirement, community-appointed majority. His advisors looked shocked. Sir, that's unprecedented. So is a 10-year-old saving my company? Khalid said dryly. I'm learning to recognize expertise when I see it. Add the amendment. Emily turned to the Korean planners. One more thing. In Japanese preservation law, there's a concept called satoyama, living landscapes that blend human and natural spaces. Osaka wants similar protection. She wrote quickly. We add language requiring that 40% of development space includes traditional Japanese landscaping elements, not decoration. Actual Satoyama principles. Native plants, water features, seasonal design. That's extremely specific, the Japanese delegate said, but he was smiling. You know Satoyama? I learned it from sleeping in parks, Emily said simply. The preserved ones felt different, safer, like the land wanted you there. She finished writing. These additions don't reduce profitability. They increase long-term value. Buildings that honor local culture last longer. Communities protect what they love. The Korean lead planner read her additions, spoke quietly with his team, then he nodded. This is acceptable. This is what we hoped for from the beginning. The Japanese delegate agreed. You understand that development is conversation with land, not conquest? Very few understand this. I understand that land speaks, Emily said. You just have to listen in the right language. The amendments were added, verified, approved. And this time, when the signatures happened, everyone in the room understood exactly what they were signing. Not just a real estate deal, a partnership between profit and preservation, between development and jeong, between power and respect. As the delegations left, Khaled pulled Emily aside. You just cost me control, he said. The Cultural Council will slow every decision. I just saved you from becoming another developer people hate, Emily corrected. The ones who build empty monuments nobody wants. Your buildings will matter now, not just to you, to the people who live in them. Khalid shook his head, but he was smiling. You're going to be terrifying when you grow up. I've been terrifying since I was 7, Emily said. You're just the first person rich enough to notice? The deal closed 72 hours later, $200,000 transferred, properties secured, cultural councils established. Emily watched from the back of the room as executives shook hands and photographers captured the moment. Nobody asked her to be in the photos. She was fine with that. Khalid found her afterward. You're not celebrating. I'm thinking about my sister, Emily said. Maya, she's 8, still hiding in alleys because she's scared of being taken away from me. This foundation can't just be about buildings. It has to be about the kids living in them. Then make it about that, Khalid said. You have $40 million my support. Build what you wish existed when your mother was alive? Emily nodded. I will. 5 years later, the Osaka Convention Center was packed. 2,000 people, real estate developers, municipal planners, international investors, the annual Asia-Pacific Land Development Summit. On stage, Emily Carter stood at a podium, 15 years old now, wearing professional clothes that actually fit. Land speaks, she began. Most people just don't know the language. The screen behind her showed a photograph, a construction site in Manila, a 9-year-old boy reading a zoning permit. His name is Diego. He's been homeless for 14 months. He speaks Tagalog, English, and Mandarin. He learned by watching developers arrive in his neighborhood and erase the only home he'd known. Another image. A girl in Seoul examining municipal documents. Minji, age 11, orphaned at 7. She taught herself Korean legal language by reading the notices posted before evictions. She can tell you the exact difference between temporary custody and permanent ownership. Not because she studied law, because she had to. Emily clicked to the next slide. Numbers appeared. In the last 5 years, the Isabella Reyes Foundation has trained 18,700 children across 42 cities. Children who were invisible, children who lived in buildings but didn't understand why those buildings disappeared. The audience was completely silent. We taught them land literacy, not just vocabulary, consequence. What words become when they enter legal systems? What happens when custody becomes ownership? When review becomes audit? When temporary becomes permanent? Another slide. 1,900 of those children now work in legal, zoning, and infrastructure roles. They're translators who understand consequence. They're planners who speak both developer language and community needs. They're the bridges that prevent what almost happened 5 years ago. She paused, letting that sink in. 5 years ago, I walked into a building on this stage and told a billionaire he was about to lose $5 billion, and I was 10. Homeless, barefoot. Nobody believed me. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew this story. But I was right because I spoke land. I understood that translation isn't about matching words. It's about mapping consequences. And I learned that skill because I had to survive in spaces that were never meant for me. Emily's voice grew stronger. You have children like that in your cities right now? Kids sleeping in your unfinished buildings? Kids reading your zoning permits? Kids who understand your projects better than you do because their survival depends on it. She clicked to a new image. Her mother, Isabella Reyes, young, smiling, holding a toddler Emily. My mother taught me 6 languages while working 3 jobs. She died at 34 because we couldn't afford health care. She never got to see buildings with her name on them. She never got invited to conferences like this. Emily's throat tightened, but her voice stayed steady. But she taught me something that saved a $5 billion deal and created a foundation that's changed 18,700 lives. She taught me that unused space is temporary mercy. That land has memory. That people who speak many languages can build bridges, but people who only speak one language can only build walls. The screen changed to show foundation graduates. Diego, now an apprentice urban planner in Manila. Minji, working with Seoul's municipal housing department. Others in Tokyo, Singapore, Mumbai, Lagos. These children were supposed to be invisible, temporary, disposable. Instead, they're becoming the experts you hire, the translators you need, the community liaisons who prevent your projects from failing. Emily looked directly at the audience. My mother was right about everything. Knowledge is the one thing nobody can steal from us. Languages are bridges to futures we can't yet imagine. And the biggest difference between success and failure isn't money or power. It's whether you see potential in places everyone else sees nothing. She closed her presentation. Land speaks. I taught 18,700 children to listen. Who will you teach next? The applause started slowly, then built. Then everyone was standing. But Emily wasn't looking at them. She was looking at the photograph of her mother on the screen. You were right, Mama. About all of it. After the speech, developers lined up to talk to Emily, offering partnerships, asking about training programs, requesting foundation expansion to their cities. Khalid found her in the crowd. You've built something remarkable. We built something necessary, Emily corrected. She pulled out her phone, showed him a message. Maya starts university next month. Architecture program, full scholarship. She wants to design buildings that don't erase the people living in them. Khalid smiled. Your mother would be proud. My mother would say we're just getting started, Emily said. 18,700 is nothing compared to how many kids still need this. We're opening 12 new training hubs next year, expanding to South America, Africa. Everywhere land has rules and children are learning them too late. You're 15, Khalid said. Most people twice your age haven't accomplished half of this. Emily shrugged. Most people twice my age never had to sleep in construction sites and read demolition notices to survive, and perspective changes what you think is possible? A reporter approached. Ms. Carter, one question. What would you say to other children living in situations like yours 5 years ago? Emily thought about her mother's voice, about languages learned by candlelight, about surviving in spaces not meant for her. I'd say learn everything you can, she said. Not for school, for survival, because the world is designed by people who speak specific languages, legal, financial, bureaucratic. Those languages control your life whether you understand them or not. She looked directly into the camera. So learn them, map them, master them, because knowledge is the one thing they can't evict, the one thing that doesn't require permission or paperwork or proof that you belong. And if adults won't teach you, then you teach yourself. That's what my mother did. That's what I did. That's what 18,700 children did. Emily smiled. We're proof that invisible doesn't mean powerless. It just means people aren't looking in the right places. The reporter nodded. Last question. What's next for the foundation? Emily pulled out a document, the same worn pages she'd carried into the Meridian Crown Tower 5 years ago. Her mother's notes, her own calculations, the proof that had started everything. Next, we make sure no other child has to prove they matter, she said. We make land literacy standard education. We make consequence mapping a required skill. We make invisible children visible, free. She folded the document carefully. My mother used to say that speaking many languages means you can talk to many hearts. She was right, but she taught me something else too. Emily looked at the camera one final time. She taught me that the most powerful translation isn't word to word, it's possibility to reality, and that, Mama, that's a language everyone can learn. That night, Emily stood on the hotel balcony overlooking Osaka's waterfront. The very land that had almost been lost, the land she'd helped save. Somewhere below, in buildings still under construction, children slept in spaces not meant for them, learning languages, mapping consequences, surviving. Guides tomorrow the foundation would find them, teach them, show them that unused space could become opportunity. But tonight, Emily just stood there, watching lights reflect on water, and whispered to the mother who'd given her everything. "You were right, Mama, about all of it." The city answered in 6 languages, and Emily understood every word.